Chris was not born into wealth. He did not have powerful connections. He did not have a safety net waiting to catch him if he fell. What he had was a dream, a simple belief that one day his life would be better. But belief alone does not pay the bills. Every morning, Chris woke up with the same mission: to sell medical scanning machines that he had invested everything into. These machines were supposed to change his life. He believed in them so much that he put all his savings into it. But the reality was different. Most days, people didn't listen. Some didn't even give him a chance to speak. Doors closed before he could even finish his sentence. And the few who did listen rarely said yes. Still, he kept going. Because when you have nothing left, hope becomes everything. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever believed so much in something, but nothing seemed to work? Take a second. Think about it. Have you ever given your time, your energy, your effort, and still felt like you were going nowhere? That was Chris's reality every single day. At home, things were not any easier. The small apartment he shared with his wife and his young son was filled with tension. Bills were stacking up, pressure was building, and peace was slowly disappearing. His wife was tired, not tired of him, but tired of the struggle. Tired of waiting for things to change, tired of hoping without seeing results. And Chris, he felt it. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing harder on his shoulders every day. He knew he was trying. He knew he was doing everything he could. But sometimes, trying is not enough. Sometimes life doesn't reward effort immediately, and that can break you. Let me ask you this. What do you do when you are trying your best and life is still not working? Do you keep going, or do you start to doubt yourself? Just think about that for a moment, because this is where most people give up. But Chris didn't. Even when arguments became normal, even when silence in the house became heavy, even when the person closest to him started losing faith, he kept moving. Not because it was easy, but because he didn't know how to stop. Chris was living in two worlds. Outside, he was chasing a dream that refused to respond. Inside, he was losing the very thing he was fighting for. And slowly, everything started to crack. But through all of this, there was one thing that kept him grounded: his son. A young boy who didn't fully understand the struggles around him, but trusted his father completely. To him, Chris wasn't failing. He was strong. He was capable. He was enough. And sometimes, that belief from someone else is the only thing that keeps you alive inside. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever had someone believe in you, even when you were doubting yourself? How did that feel? Hold that thought, because for Chris, that belief mattered more than anything. Every day he walked through the city carrying those heavy machines, moving from place to place, hoping that today would be different, hoping that today someone would say yes. But rejection became normal, and doubt started growing quietly. Not loud, not obvious, but dangerous. The kind of doubt that whispers, "What if this doesn't work? What if you've made a mistake? What if all this effort leads to nothing?" Have you ever heard that voice before? That quiet voice that tries to convince you to stop? Yeah, that's the voice that destroys dreams. Chris heard it too, but he refused to listen. Because once you accept doubt, you slowly lose belief. And once belief is gone, everything else follows. Then one day, something changed, not directly in his life, but in what he saw. He noticed something different. Men walking with confidence, dressed sharply, driving nice cars, smiling without stress, living a life that felt stable, a life that felt secure.
For a moment he stopped and he looked, not with jealousy, but with curiosity, and he asked a simple question. "What do you do?" The answer came back, "I'm a stockbroker." That moment planted something powerful in his mind, a possibility, a new direction, a different life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen something that made you realize your life could be different? That one moment that opened your mind? That's what this was for him. But every opportunity comes with a cost, and Chris was already struggling to survive. At home, things reached their limit. The pressure became too much, the waiting too long, the uncertainty too heavy. And then, the moment came. The moment that changes everything. His wife left. Not because she didn't care, but because she could not carry the weight anymore. And just like that, Chris was no longer just a man chasing a dream. He became a father, standing alone, responsible for a child, responsible for survival, responsible for everything. No more support, no more backup, just him and his son. Let me ask you something real. If everything in your life fell apart today and someone depended on you to survive, would you be ready? Would you stand, or would you break? Take a second, because this is not easy. This is where pressure becomes real. But Chris made a decision. He chose to keep going. Not because he was sure, not because he had a plan, but because stopping was not an option. He kept moving, with fear, with doubt, with uncertainty, but also with belief. A belief that one day everything would make sense. But what he didn't know was that the decision he had just made would take him into the hardest phase of his life. A phase where he would lose almost everything. A phase where survival itself would become a daily battle. A phase that would test him beyond limits. Because sometimes, before life changes your story, it tests your strength. And Chris Gardner was about to face that test.
This is the story of a man who refused to give up, even when life gave him every reason to. A man who believed that no matter how dark things became, there was still a way forward.